All right, so welcome to another deep dive. You guys know the drill by now. Send us the stuff that's got you thinking, the articles, the questions, the things that are just like really making you wonder. And we'll dive in. We try and get to those core insights that maybe you're not seeing at first glance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and today we've got a really interesting character study that someone sent our way.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking a look at Louis Bloom from the movie Nightcrawler
Oh, yeah.
through the
Nightcrawler.
lens of the Enneagram.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Specifically, looking at him as a self-preservation 7.
Okay, so Nightcrawler, Louis Bloom, Self-Preservation 7. I mean, right off the bat, most people watch that movie and they see Louis Bloom and they think sociopath, right? Like classic
Yeah.
textbook. But we want to use this deep dive to bring in a little bit more nuance to that.
Right, yeah.
Like, is there a different way to see him through the Enneagram that gives us a little bit more understanding?
Yeah, I think the Enneagram can be really helpful in providing that more nuanced perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just like he's a bad guy. What are the underlying motivations? What are the fears and the desires that are driving him?
Right. And how did they become so warped,
Right,
right?
right.
Like, how did they go so wrong?
And so when we look at Louis Bloom through the lens of the self-preservation 7, we're really looking at what happens when this personality type that's fundamentally driven by a need for security, what happens when that need for security goes to an extreme and when it manifests in really unhealthy ways.
Great. So take a personality type and just really turn up the dial on all those like core fears and motivations to 11 and see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. We're going to look at the dark side of the self-preservation 7.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so where do we start? I mean, right away, one of the things you notice about Louis is how he interacts with other people.
Yeah,
Like he's constantly sizing them up, figuring out what their value is,
totally.
what he can get out of the interaction.
Yeah, it's almost like he sees every relationship, every interaction as a transaction.
Yeah.
There's this really fascinating, almost chilling utilitarianism in his relationships, right?
Yeah.
And I think what makes it even more fascinating is that it's not even just about getting something in the moment, right? Like he needs something right now, and he's going to use you to get it. It really speaks to this deep insecurity where he seems to only be able to connect with people through their usefulness to him.
Oh, wow.
It's really a distortion of what human connection can be.
Yeah. That's kind of a sad thought if you think about it. It's
Yeah.
just like that's the only way you can connect to another human being.
Yeah. The Enneagram describes this in the unhealthy self-preservation 7 as this idea that friendship is only worth cultivating if the friend is useful to his plans or interests. And we see that play out so clearly throughout the film. Like, look at his relationship with Nina, the news director,
Yeah.
right? It's not a partnership that's built on any sort of mutual respect or shared goals. You don't see them actually enjoying working together. It's this constant power play, right?
Yeah. Right.
He's always negotiating. He's hinting at what he can offer. There's veiled threats, always making sure he's getting the best possible deal.
Even that business dinner, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was just so awkward, and it felt like he was going into a contract negotiation.
Exactly. It was a total negotiation. There was no real warmth, no human connection, no attempt to just sort of connect as two people working in a similar field. And I think if we connect that back to this idea of the disintegrated self-preservation 7, a lot of this transactional behavior is coming from this deep-seated fear of not having enough,
Interesting.
right? So not having enough resources, whether that's information, whether that's opportunities,
Right.
whether that's, even like social capital.
Yeah.
He's constantly trying to maximize his gains to feel secure.
And what about Rick?
Rick.
Poor Rick.
Yeah.
He's almost the perfect example of that, I mean, he hires him for practically nothing.
Yeah.
He's clearly taking advantage of how desperate Rick is to get by.
Exploiting his desperation.
And then, well, he uses him as bait,
Yeah.
which leads to that horrible moment where Rick gets shot.
Yes.
And instead of, helping him, Louis just keeps filming. I mean, it's just like the ultimate example of seeing another person as just completely disposable. Like a tool to get what you want.
It's brutal. It really is. And what's so striking about that scene is that it reveals just how instrumental his view of relationships is.
Right.
So Rick is completely disposable in Louis' pursuit of this better shot, better footage, more success. He's not even a person at that point.
Yeah.
He's just an obstacle that needs to be, navigated around in order to get what he wants. And the fact that he continues to film rather than offering any aid, it's chilling.
Totally.
It really highlights this profound lack of empathy. And I think that's a hallmark of the disintegrated self-preservation 7, this complete prioritization of their own objectives above all else.
Yeah, it's like he's viewing the world through a camera lens all the time. Yeah, it's interesting, too. Like, even his very first interaction in the film with the scrapyard owner, remember that? He's not just asking for information.
Yep.
He's sizing the guy up. It's like he's instantly trying to figure out if this person can be of any use to him down the line.
Yeah, it's like everyone he encounters is instantly categorized.
Yeah.
Asset or liability.
Yeah, friend or foe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that raises a really important question, which is, what's driving this relentless need to extract value from every single interaction?
Right.
And this is where I think we start to see the core polarity of the self-preservation 7 come into play. So you have this very visible, greedy insatiability that you see in Louis, this constant wanting more, but that masks a deeper fear, a fear of lack. So it's like that hunger, that constant drive is a compensation for this deeper anxiety about not having enough.
That makes sense. Because he is never satisfied, is he? He gets the scanner and then it's onto a better camera, and then he wants to form his own company. He needs more vehicles, you know, he's constantly striving, never seems to hit a point where he's like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, it's relentless. And what the Enneagram points to here is that this gluttony, as it's often described, that turns into this insatiability, isn't just about ambition in the traditional sense, right? Or about wanting nicer things. It's coming from this place of trying to compensate for this underlying fear that there's not enough to go around.
Right.
There's not enough resources. There's not enough opportunity.
Scarcity mindset.
Scarcity mindset, exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, he starts the film, Louis, scavenging for scrap metal.
Right.
Right? He's stealing a bicycle. Those details aren't just incidental.
Right.
They're symbolic of that early experience of deprivation.
That struggle. Right.
Exactly. And it fuels this relentless pursuit of more resources, more knowledge, more skills, and maybe even more importantly, more control.
So he's not just trying to climb the ladder, he's trying to outrun something.
Yeah, he's trying to fill this void that's created by this fundamental fear that he'll never have enough.
Right. So strategically using people driven by this insatiability and this fear. And on top of that, he seems to be so detached from an emotional standpoint to all the horrific stuff he's seeing.
That's another key piece of this puzzle, and it's one of the more disturbing aspects of his character.
Oh, yeah.
He's constantly surrounded by trauma,
Yeah.
you know, accidents, crime scenes, death.
Yeah.
And he appears completely unfazed.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this guiding principle for Lua, which is, above all, avoid being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he takes that to an extreme.
Do you remember that scene? I think it's one of the more disturbing scenes in the whole movie, where he's inside the house,
Yes.
the murder victim's house, and he's just meticulously filming.
Yeah.
And he's so focused on the framing, the lighting. It's like he's completely indifferent to the fact that someone has been murdered in this very room.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
Absolutely chilling. And I think it illustrates perfectly this imperviousness to pain, this reduced emotional permeability that we see in the unhealthy self-preservation 7.
It's like he's turned off his ability to feel.
You know, it's not just that he's not expressing emotions outwardly. It's like he shut down that part of himself completely.
Shut it down.
The Enneagram describes this as a way of actively avoiding suffering. It's like a psychological survival strategy.
Right.
You know, when you think about it, trauma can be completely overwhelming.
Right.
So if you can just shut down those feelings, numb yourself to them.
That's how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's your coping mechanism.
It's not just other people's suffering he's numb to, is it? He doesn't even seem to care about his own discomfort.
That's right. He's pushing himself physically. He's not sleeping. He's probably not eating properly.
Yeah, he's in that hustle mindset.
Yeah, it's hustle, grind.
Gotta get it.
Yeah.
And he's willing to sacrifice himself for that.
And that's another key point about the self-preservation 7. This paradox where in their drive to ensure their own security and well-being in the long run, they often end up neglecting their own basic physical and emotional needs in the present moment.
Right.
Louis is so fixated on this external acquisition.
The footage, the recognition.
The footage, the recognition, the next big break, that he just completely disregards his own personal needs.
He's driven by pure logic, and the messiness of human emotion is just completely out of the equation.
Yeah, and I think that leads us to another fascinating aspect of Louis's character, which is how he interacts with authority. He's not openly rebellious.
No.
Right? But he's certainly not playing by the rules either.
No, he's bending them, breaking them.
Bending them, breaking them. And the Enneagram describes this as calculated insubordination. which I think is a perfect term for what we see in Louis.
Hmm.
So unlike, say, a type 8 who might just directly confront authority,
Right.
Louis takes this very different approach. He puts on this air of cooperation, even helpfulness. But all the while, he's systematically bending or breaking the rules to his own advantage.
Yeah, it's like he's figured out how to work the system.
Totally.
Yeah.
Think about his interactions with Detective Fonterri. On the surface, he's being helpful, he's providing information, but it's always on his own terms, and he's clearly withholding things, manipulating the narrative to try and steer the investigation in a direction that benefits him.
It's almost like he's playing chess, you know?
Totally.
He's always thinking a few moves ahead.
And it's that classic self-preservation 7 tendency to dodge or seduce, as the Enneagram puts it, thus avoiding the consequences.
Avoid those consequences at all costs.
Yeah, he's not directly challenging the police, he's just maneuvering around them. He's using his charm, his carefully crafted persona, to control the situation as much as he can.
And you know what's so interesting, too, is how much effort he's clearly put into sounding legitimate.
Yep.
All those phrases he throws around, it's like he took some online course on how to sound like a successful entrepreneur.
He's done his homework, yeah.
Yeah.
He's learned the language of authority, but without any real respect for the underlying principles or ethical boundaries.
Right. It's all surface, no substance.
Right. And I think this speaks to the fact that Louis has created this really flexible moral code for himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a moral code where his benefits, his own desired outcomes, completely take precedence over any sense of, societal norms or ethical considerations. He manipulates crime scenes. He breaks into people's homes to steal equipment.
Right.
To him, the end justifies the means, no matter how morally reprehensible those means might be. And yet he presents himself as this hardworking, ambitious entrepreneur, just trying to make it in a tough world. He's actively engaging with the police to get information that he can use for his own gain, potentially obstructing justice. But he's still operating under this guise of legitimacy. It's a really unsettling form of subversion from within the system.
It's wild. It's like he's found all these loopholes and he's like, well, if I'm not technically breaking the law, I'm good.
Exactly.
So we've got strategically utilitarian, driven by insatiability and fear, emotionally detached and insubordinate in this very calculated way. There's also this fascinating contradiction, this dichotomy in how he manages his money.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The Enneagram describes it as schizoid austerity and seductive waste, which I think is a perfect description of what we see in Louis.
Okay, break that down for me. What does that mean?
Basically, he has this split where he exercises extreme control in certain areas that he deems necessary for basic survival.
Right.
But then, when it comes to things that fuel his ambition or project this image of success, he's incredibly indulgent, almost reckless.
It's like he's living a double life, financially speaking.
Yeah, on one hand, he lives in this bare, almost ascetic apartment. He dresses in a really utilitarian way. He seems incredibly careful with his basic expenses.
Almost like a monk,
Yeah.
living a very simple life.
Exactly.
But then when it comes to the high-end filming equipment, that red sports car,
Yeah.
he suddenly becomes a completely different person.
Yeah, the purse strings loosen dramatically, and I think that contrast is really key to understanding this aspect of the self-preservation 7's disintegration. There's this underlying anxiety about security, right? Which can lead to really tight control in certain areas. But when it comes to pursuing those core desires, those things that fuel their sense of potential, excitement, they can be incredibly wasteful. They can be impulsive.
I mean, that red Dodge Challenger really sticks out in the film. It's like this jarring symbol of extravagance in this otherwise pretty stark existence.
Yeah, it's totally out of sync with the rest of his life, and that's the point.
Right.
That car isn't just transportation for him. It's this symbol of his ambition. It's a tool that helps him get to those breaking stories faster.
Yeah.
And I think it's also fueled by this fear of missing out, which is a really common theme for the disintegrated 7.
Right. So it's like tight control in some areas, manic spending in others, all ultimately driven by these core desires and anxieties.
Exactly. Now, another thing that really stands out about Louis that I think is key to understanding his character is his intense sense of entitlement.
Oh.
And I want to be clear here. This entitlement isn't just about wanting things. It's this deep-seated belief that he deserves to be heard,
Right.
that he deserves to be recognized for his talents and his efforts, even when those efforts are unethical or non-existent.
From the very beginning, he's going into this news station, he's got no experience, and he's telling the news director how to run her entire operation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not even just a demand for attention or adulation. It's this expectation that his insights, his contributions, no matter how minimal or unethical, will be immediately recognized and highly valued. He's operating under this assumption of inherent competence, even when the evidence suggests otherwise.
It's almost delusional, the level of confidence he has in himself.
Yeah, and I think that ties into this interesting thing about the self-preservation 7, which is that their narcissism isn't necessarily about being loved or adored. It's more about wanting validation.
Validation, interesting.
Validation of their competence, their value. And we see that play out in how he positions himself from the very start as an equal, even a superior partner to Nina.
Right.
Despite having absolutely no experience or ethical grounding in this field. And this sense of deservingness, it extends to his business dealings too.
Oh, yeah.
He constantly overvalues his contributions,
Yeah.
demands what seems like excessive compensation.
Yeah, he always wants more.
He always wants more. Now, I think this sense of entitlement also plays a significant role in his, let's just say, flexible relationship with the truth.
Yeah, flexible is one way to put it.
Right. And the Enneagram uses a term to describe this: fraudulent behavior.
Fraudulent behavior, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's incredibly accurate. Louis constantly lying, misrepresenting himself, stealing, manipulating crime scenes. I mean, he invents his entire professional background.
Remember the opening scene of the movie, stealing those fences?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that sets the tone for his whole approach to acquiring what he wants.
Yeah.
If I can't get it legitimately, I'll just take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it highlights that self-preservation 7 tendency to arrogate merits that do not correspond to him.
Right.
So he's claiming expertise, he's claiming legitimacy that he just doesn't possess.
Right.
And his morality, I think, is completely situational. It's like his morality is defined purely by what will benefit him in the short or long run. So whether it's manipulating a crime scene to get a more dramatic shot,
Yeah.
breaking into someone's home to steal equipment, it doesn't matter to him.
As long as he gets what he wants.
Yeah, as long as he gets what he wants. And I think perhaps the most disturbing example of this fraudulent nature is when he orchestrates Joe Letter's accident.
Oh, yeah.
He sets the stage for this tragedy, and then he films the aftermath, and then he presents himself as this lucky bystander.
Right place, right time, right?
Right place, right time. It's chilling. It's chilling how detached he is from the human cost of his actions. And I think it shows just how far the self-preservation 7 can go in this disintegrated state when their needs and their ambitions are at stake. Now, along with this complete disregard for ethical boundaries, we also see this incredible restlessness in Louis.
Oh, yeah. He is always moving.
Always on the move, always pushing forwards, like he's got this internal motor that just won't quit.
You can't sit still.
Yeah, and that's that characteristic impatience of the self-preservation 7, that difficulty in contacting slowness, as the Enneagram puts it. The reckless driving, the rapid-fire speech, the constant need to be doing something.
Always got to be hustling.
Always hustling, always grinding. And I think the Enneagram suggests that this constant activity, this pace, it serves as a way to avoid confronting difficult emotions, to avoid any sort of genuine self-reflection.
Like if he slows down, he has to actually face the emptiness inside.
Exactly. And I think we see this in how quickly he learns the ropes in this really high-stakes world of freelance news. He goes from complete novice to owning his own company in such a short amount of time. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah, his learning curve is crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like straight up.
Straight up, yeah. And that intolerance for stillness, for slowness, it's really a hallmark of the disintegrated 7.
It's like he's running from something. But at the same time, even with all this frenetic energy, he's incredibly focused, efficient when it comes to achieving his goals.
Yeah. There's this really interesting and somewhat unsettling combination of tenacity and efficiency orientation that we see in Louis.
Right.
And while 7s in general can sometimes struggle with procrastination, getting sidetracked by new possibilities, the self-preservation 7, in this really unhealthy state, they exhibit this ruthless tenacity.
Yeah.
They're obsessed with being efficient, with obtaining maximum rewards with minimal effort.
It's like they've optimized everything, even their own moral compass.
Exactly. And there's this really disturbing scene that I think illustrates this perfectly. It's after Rick has been shot, and Louis actually drags his lifeless body to adjust the composition of the shot.
Ah, that scene, it's just so cold.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect encapsulation of how his focus is solely on the desired outcome, getting the most impactful, the most sellable footage, no matter the human cost.
It's like he's completely shut off that part of himself that recognizes the inherent value of another human being.
Yeah, he's operating from pure pragmatism. He's only interested in the tangible results, not in abstract ideals or ethical considerations.
Yeah, so focused on the goal that he's lost sight of any kind of humanity.
And I think this leads us to another really important aspect of Louis's character, which is this real lack of genuine connection in his interactions.
Yeah, he's very surface level with everyone, isn't he?
Yeah, and the Enneagram describes this as this dryness, this nuclear coldness at his core.
Nuclear coldness, wow.
Yeah, and it's not just a lack of empathy. It's like a more active disconnection from the whole realm of feeling.
So it's not that he can't connect, it's that he chooses not to.
Yeah, exactly. And the Enneagram talks about this in Unhealthy Sevens as a form of physical disembodiment and a semiotic embodiment.
Okay, say that again. I'm not sure I follow.
So basically, it's like abstract words, concepts, external appearances, all of that replaces any authentic felt emotional experience.
So it's like he's learned the language of human connection, but he doesn't actually feel it.
Yeah, he knows how to talk the talk, but there's no real substance behind it.
And you see that in how he uses all that business jargon, all those motivational phrases.
Yes.
It's like he's read all the self-help books, but hasn't actually absorbed any of the wisdom.
He's trying to mimic what he thinks a successful person sounds like, but it comes across as hollow, forced, and ultimately empty.
Yeah, there's no heart behind it.
Yeah. And I think we see this play out in his detachment when he's observing those traumatic events. He's meticulously documenting everything, but there's no emotional resonance.
Right.
No sense of empathy for the people involved. Even his awkward attempt to proposition Nina sexually felt more like a strategic move than any genuine expression of desire or attraction.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to fit in to play the part, but he doesn't actually understand the rules of the game.
Yeah, and I think that this emotional detachment, it probably stems from a really fundamental way he views the world around him.
And how's that?
Well, he has a very untrustful and skeptical worldview.
Right, he thinks everyone is out to get him.
Yeah, the disintegrated self-preservation 7 operates from this really ingrained assumption that the world is fundamentally corrupt, that everyone is motivated by self-interest.
So he trusts no one.
No one. And that cynicism, that mistrust, it justifies his own manipulative behavior.
Right, because if everyone else is being selfish, why shouldn't he be too?
Exactly. He doesn't believe in inherent human goodwill. He doesn't believe in the natural flow of light. It's like he sees the world as this dangerous battleground where you have to be constantly strategic, ruthless, just to survive.
And if you don't exploit others, they'll just exploit you.
Yeah, he has that conversation with Rick about why successful people don't help those who are struggling. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a bleak, self-serving explanation, but it really reveals the core of his cynical beliefs. He's projecting his own mindset onto everyone else.
And it ultimately allows him to avoid any sense of responsibility for his own actions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So despite all these really unsettling characteristics, Louis does manage to present this polished image to the world.
Yeah, that's the bon vivant facade that often comes with the disintegrated self-preservation 7.
Bon vivant, huh?
So he maintains this superficial veneer of civility, of polish, even professionalism when his underlying actions are anything but.
Right, he cleans up well.
He cleans up well, he's articulate, he's constantly projecting this image that everything is fine, that he's this competent, trustworthy individual.
That it's all a front.
It's all a front. And I think that's what makes his character so unsettling. You have this stark contrast between that polished exterior and the emptiness inside.
It's like a performance.
Yeah, it's a performance.
Yeah.
It's like he's meticulously learned the external cues of how a normal person behaves. But there's no real depth there.
It's like he's wearing a mask. So when we put it all together, Louis Bloom does seem to be the ultimate example of a self-preservation 7 gone wrong.
Yeah, he's like this really disturbing pathological extreme of that Enneagram type.
Right.
And I think Nightcrawler really serves as a cautionary tale of what can happen when these core personality tendencies are allowed to run unchecked, when they're divorced from empathy, from ethics, from any sense of shared humanity.
Right. So we see that fear of scarcity manifesting as this obsessive need to accumulate more. The desire for positive experiences becomes this insatiable hunger for increasingly shocking footage. The strategic thinking turns into manipulation and exploitation.
Yeah.
Difficulty with emotional connection turns into complete dissociation.
Yeah, and that skepticism, that questioning of authority,
Yeah.
it devolves into this deep-seated mistrust of absolutely everything and everyone.
Right. So it's like all the negative aspects of the self-preservation 7 just get amplified to the extreme.
Exactly.
And it makes you wonder, even in less extreme ways, how some of these tendencies might show up in our own lives, right?
Absolutely.
In our relationships, how we deal with authority. And it makes you think about the different survival strategies that we all use,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and when those strategies might cross a line and become unhealthy.
Yeah, it's a powerful film. It definitely leaves you with a lot to think about.
It really does. Thanks for diving deep with us.